Welcome to the No Budget Indie Filmcast, where we dip into the independent universe to highlight those little films that you might not have heard about elsewhere. Will you agree with our panel, or will our panel agree with each other? Tune in to find out. I am Milo Dennison, and with me is Claire Milan.
Hello.
And with the two of us is Cathal Feeney.
Hello.
Today, what are we looking at, Cathal Feeney?
So today we are looking at a film called Miller and Son. So it's a film that was written and directed by Asher Jelinsky, and it stars Jesse James Keitel and Ryan Catrona and Travis Hammer. So I suppose we should make a point of saying spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I think you have to.
It's probably a good idea to start this whole thing versus halfway through it like we usually do,
And if people want to watch this film, don't read the synopsis. Don't read the synopsis, because Carl gave us a warning beforehand not to read the synopsis, and I didn't. And I didn't read even the title of it. I barely glanced at it,
Yeah.
But anyway, don't read the synopsis before you watch this.
Don't read the synopsis and don't listen to it. That's it. So anyway, watch the film. I recommend it. Before we get to the end, I recommend it. So anyway, Miller and Son. It's a drama. It's set somewhere in Middle America. So Miller and Son is I don't know what you call it in America, a motor repair shop. And it's owned by this guy, Mr. Miller, and his son. So you're introduced straight away to these two characters, and you can see that they're quite content. They're very happy. The father, he's and the son are working, and the father's, you can see he's very proud of his son. He's very happy that he's working, following in his footsteps, and he hopes maybe one day that his son will take over, and maybe his son will take over, and so on and so forth, and continue the family tradition. There's another character there as well. He works in the garage. His name is Grant. He's kind of a middle-aged guy. So at the end of this particular evening, they're chilling out over some beers, and Grant mentions that he's going to a bachelor party, which I suppose is a stag party here, and he invites Ryan, and Ryan demurs. He says no. So then after that, we follow Ryan, and he goes into the city, and he goes to a disco, and then we find out that Ryan is a trans woman. So later on in the evening, Brian is in the alleyway talking to his friend, and his bachelor party kind of comes along, and there's a suggestion at this stage that Grant sees Ryan. It's not clear, but it's probable. So the next day, they're in the garage, and there's kind of a tension there as Ryan waits for Grant to, out him, reveal a secret, and it's kind of a tension, and that's sort of where it is. So I would say what one of the things that defines this film for me is that it's not a huge amount of dialogue. There's lots of silences, which I think is a strength, and the silence kind of works both ways. So at the beginning of the film, you can just see them working together, very competently, and you can see Ryan really knows his stuff, and he's very comfortable in that environment, and it's just, there's sort of a comfort, a contentedness in the ordinariness of it. And then at the end, the silence kind of brings out the tension in the scene. And the final scene with the father and the son, there's barely a word spoken between them. But it really kind of evokes the sort of the emotion of that scene. So yeah, I thought it was really good, and I really liked that. So there you go.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I love the simplicity of it. Like the very simple storyline. It's like the writer, I think she wrote and directed it, the writer and director, she really trusted her material. Like you can see it in it, there was nothing forced. And she trusted in her actors to portray what she had written, it was cast so well. But it was just so simple. And even, sorry, spoiler alert, because you spoiled it, but, even finding out towards the end, with the relationship between the mechanic and the father. But it's like, it's a lovely revelation. I didn't expect that. It's quite interesting because the writer and director and the main actor, they're non-binary. So I don't think they classify themselves as a man or a woman, So it's it's just, I thought it was really beautiful, and it was nominated, shortlisted for a live action short at the Oscars. It just shows you, like, to be nominated for an Oscar, you don't need to put bells and whistles and spend like $1 million on something. You can create a really simple story to really effective that would really touch a lot of people, and it's won loads and loads of awards. But yeah, I thought it was a really beautiful, effective piece of work, with really well acted, very little dialogue in it, and which I really, really liked. A lot of it is the acting was really good. And again, looked like the writer director, she trusts her material and trusted the actors to portray the story in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, the interesting thing about this as well is it's very believable. Like, even now, in 2020, there's still small towns in middle America where this is the life, and to where your child would still be afraid to come out and be honest with their parents and that kind of stuff, and the other people that they work with. And you're totally right. It was beautifully cast. Jesse James, like, at first when you see it, you see him, I'll just say him, for the purpose of the film, and you believe that it's a guy, but you can tell that there's something, something's not quite there in regards to, like, his relationship, because of the silence, and it kind of makes you wonder what it is. But the fact that we didn't read the description, because it was a good job of telling us not to read anything about it, because you didn't know, and it didn't come out until you actually see the scene where she's then, as a woman and being that person. And so it was really very believable in the sense that they didn't take some typically male actor and decide to then, make him into a trans woman or something like that, that they actually had an actress or, gender neutral person playing this role, which was really nice to see them do that and cast it that way and play it believably. In my opinion, I think that they did a really excellent job of portraying the two sides of that type of a person, which was really excellent. And
even her friend, the black girl, she's actually transgender. So it's cast really well. Do you know what I mean? It's cast like with people who are involved in this community. It's and he as a man, he's beautiful bone structure. Clearly effeminate. And then when he saw him as a woman, like, I didn't expect that, and it's a pity that in the synopsis that luckily we didn't read, only because of your suggestion, that they gave it away, and even they have a really good website, this short film that they've created, and it gives it away. And I just wish they didn't, because it's so good. You don't want to know until you watch the film.
Yeah, I was going to start that kind of reveal. It occurs, after about 4 or 5 minutes. So it's a 20-minute short. Like, it's quite early on, I guess, but it's kind of a pivotal moment, and it's, for a lot of short films, you're watching it, and it's the moment when you go, okay, this is what the film is about. So there's a kind of a build up, and you're waiting for something to happen, and this is what happens, and then okay. So it's about, like, identity and relationships and finding your place in the world and all this kind of stuff, and love, I guess. So yeah, it is important, and I'm so curious why they would put that in the description, really.
Yeah, it's really annoying when films do that, especially you see it in trailers all the time, but even in descriptions where they tell you what it's about, but they tell you exactly, like, key pivotal moments like that, to where if you don't know those, it makes you enjoy the film more than if you did know that. Because if I had known that, it wouldn't have, I would have been, okay, yeah, I can see it, and it wouldn't have been as interesting of a moment when that does happen.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that sort of kick, yeah. I see, yeah.
Because I didn't recognize him at first, when he turns into a woman. Do you know? Yeah. So it's yeah. It was just a great surprise, and I didn't read the description. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got. Well, there's two things I'm going to say here. First of all, it's 20 minutes. It's sort of long enough. It's kind of long enough for a short film. But I've often complained here before that sometimes a short film is too short. That, you know, it's sort of to portray sort of the emotional journey of the main character. So I think in that respect, this works very well. And also, I just thought that at the end, like the acting was superb, you know, and I liked that the father was really good as well. But I kind of got the feeling that he always suspected, or he always kind of knew, you know, and he was suppressing it, or maybe he hoped it wasn't true, you know. But then in the end, you know, his love for his child overcame any, you know, prejudices he might have had.
Yeah, I kind of got that as well. Like I thought that's something that was going to happen, that he was going to say something towards the end of like, yeah, I kind of always suspected it or whatever. And even with the other guy that works in the shop, I didn't get that the guy was necessarily completely hostile towards him. You know, I mean, he did call him out and like, so are you a woman now or whatever? But I didn't really get that he was, you know, that there was a hatred towards him. I think it was, I don't know if you guys got that, but I didn't get that. I think it was just more of a confronting, but I got the vibe that the next day or, you know, a couple of days later that they still potentially would have all been all right with each other.
It wasn't extreme hostility. It wasn't like aggressive. It was kind of calling them out, but it wasn't like, you could imagine the next day they would go back and, you know, maybe he'd ask him more questions or something, or, you know.
But you also have to imagine that he's probably known him for a long time, you know, probably since he was a child, maybe even, or a teenager. So this is a lot for him to deal with in a way too, you know, regardless of what he thinks. So he's sort of processing it, and it's his job as well. So he's probably trying to find a way to deal with it on his own terms, you know, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, because if he was really angry or hostile about it, you imagine he would have said something right away that day versus later on, and, you know, at a certain point. But so it was good.
Really good, yeah. And it's just, again, it's so simple, the story. Do you know, it's really simply told, but beautifully told. Like, and that's what I love about these type of films. There's no, like, because you could take the same story and throw in so much other stuff and it would take away from it. But by stripping it back, it's just so much more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with short films, when they just kind of stick with this nice, simple story. You know, this is what it's about. There's not a lot of extra stuff in there. The locations were perfect, even though they had multiple locations, which sometimes with shorts, the more locations you throw in, it kind of negatively impacts it. But they just had the right number of places and different scenes, and yeah, it worked. Mm-hmm.
I think this was a student film originally, wasn't it?
Was it?
Because I noticed she won some student awards. Like it was, or she did an MFA, I think, the writer director. Yes, it's like some student awards.
Wow.
So I'm 100% sure, which is phenomenal. Like if she's not already having a massive career, like to be nominated, to shortlisted for an Oscar for a short film is phenomenal. So
it's an AFI production, so I mean that would have had some amount of money.
And it was quite interesting because it's 20 minutes, but I didn't notice the time either.
Yeah,
like it did, like some 20 minutes you feel like they're 3 hours, you know, especially with short films. But with this, I didn't notice it at all.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it was definitely the right length for it, because same thing, when it was over, it didn't feel super long and exhausting or anything, especially for something that's a serious subject.
Oh, definitely. It was the pacing, I think, that it was just really well paced, not too slow, not too fast, you know, and that's just perfect. Time for the ratings? Verdict. Okay. So okay.
Well, I was going to say, I've been giving a lot of 5 stars lately, and I said, I was watching this. I remember saying last week, I said, okay, I'm going to pick one, so I don't give 5 stars. And I was watching this, and all the way along, I was going, I'm going to have to give this 5 stars, but I'm not. I'm going to give it 4.5, and I'll tell you why. Okay, at the very end, just that very, very, very final moment, and he's about to walk out the garage, and he's pausing, and I'm looking at him going, "Don't say what I think you're going to say. Don't say it. Don't say it." And he did. He said exactly what I was going to say, and it kind of took it. Okay, that was just like just slightly bit of, a bit too much icing on top, put it like that. And I just thought, okay, maybe it's unfair. I just thought, okay, I told myself, well, how else could they have done that scene, But I just kind of thought, okay, that's just a slightly too much for me. That's all. So that's why I'm allowing myself to drop it by a half.
So that's your way of failing at a 5-star review.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But it doesn't deserve it. It deserves 5. I'm that.
So would you have given it 5 stars if you hadn't given so many 5-star reviews lately?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I'm going to go 4, a solid 4 stars. I wouldn't argue with a 5-star review, but I kind of agree. I didn't love the ending as much as I think I could have, and that's probably what drops it down to a 4 for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to give it 4 as well. Like, it was brilliantly acted. It was really well written, really well directed, great pacing, but just slightly pushing it at the end, just very slightly. But it's a brilliant film, and you can see why it got nominated for an Oscar.
Well, I got nominated for an Oscar because it involved sexuality and, heart-wrenching family story. Yeah.
Checked all the boxes.
So well, checked all the Oscar bait boxes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, audience, there you have it. So we all really enjoyed this film. Hopefully you watched it before you heard our review. If you didn't, and you know what's going to happen, I would say still go watch it. It's still really worth watching and a pleasurable film to watch. As always, I'll throw a link to the film in the comments and notes, so you can leave your own comment and let us know what you thought, or contact us via the No Budget Show Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter feeds. And with that, we will say, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.